How do you think? And how do you get to think the way you think? And what made you think what you think right now? Where'd you get this attitude from that you have? The history that created you is still with you. And even though you wear different clothes, drive a different car, it's the same person. Because somehow our history is so heavy. It's tough to cut loose. We still apologize for being successful. We feel ashamed to be in charge. It's amazing. See, when you still carry your history, you are afraid of success because you may lose your friends who ain't going nowhere. Very subtle problems. Your attitude is so powerful. It creates your atmosphere. It also is a source of your natural lifestyle. And if you're going to change your life, you got to change your attitude. I know you came and you're thinking, Dr. Monroe, tell us 10 principles of leadership. No, that's not what you need first. You need to change the way you think first. I was invited to speak at Harvard University, and the room was filled with all of these technocrats and these professors and all these, Ivy League people. And they invited me to speak on leadership. Do you know what I came in there and talked about? I talked about thinking. When I was finished, first standing ovation ever at Harvard University, they said. They had never heard anybody get into their heads before. I exposed those who were racist. I showed them that your thinking is your philosophy that destroys the way you treat people in your department. And until your thinking change, you are contaminated leadership. They had never heard such a level of teaching on leadership. Why? Because unless your mind changes, you will never become a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put it this way. Attitude determines your limitation, which means that your belief system determines how far you go. You can never lead beyond your attitude and your belief system. And that's why your life is exactly what it is. Attitude is the manifestation of your personal philosophy. And that's why this first session is dealing with discovering your personal leadership first. Then we could talk about people. People tell me, they have a PhD in physics, and I laugh at them. I say, really? So what does that mean? That means nothing to me. That doesn't make you better than me. Your education doesn't change your human value. We are still equal as humans. And I do know some things you don't know. So we got to be careful. And I like what the great king said, King Solomon. As a man thinks where? In his heart, so is he. Don't ever quote that verse again without putting the word heart in it. Now, what is your heart? Your heart is the place where you keep all the ideas you collected all your life, the ones you believe, you keep it. So when you hear the word heart in the Bible, don't point at your chest. Point at your head. Are you thinking with purity? What have you downloaded as your software on your hard drive that you believe? Every time someone presses a certain button in your life, whatever is there comes up. For example, there's some of you black people in this room. When a white man comes into your department, you become very nervous. And when a black man comes, you act like you don't care. In other words, there's something in your heart, your hard drive still got some problems. There's some viruses. You're sick. It's there on your hard drive. 40 years of struggle and you're still there. You ain't free yet. You just delivered. Deliverance is when you leave Egypt and enter the wilderness. Freedom is when Egypt leaves your mind. So stop telling people you're free. You are still in the wilderness. And notice what God did in the wilderness, He kept them going around in circles. 40 years. I told my wife, where's my Bible? I got to read my Bible again. I said, let me just see. I think God made a mistake. It took them 40 years for a 40-day trip. And then I read in the Bible, it says, because they had not gotten Egypt out of their minds, the Lord led them the long way around until their children were born. Let me just give you the point I'm making here. God will deliver you, but will never set you free. You got to set yourself free. They walked around in that desert for 40 years. Why? Because 40 years is a generation. What was God doing? He was waiting for 40 years until he got what they were carrying in their loins, the next generation. When the kids came up, God killed them all. Killed all the parents. By the Bible, God allowed none of them to go into the promised land. Why? Because they were still thinking about onions instead of milk and garlic instead of honey. They didn't change their thinking. Your mentality is more important than your location. If you don't change as a person mentally, you will stay where you are physically. So God killed them all. Only 2 left. And those 2 were born in the desert. Caleb, Joshua. They had no memory of oppression. They believed anything was possible. Leadership begins with thinking. So my question is, what is your philosophy of leadership? Power doesn't make you smart. It exposes your ignorance.
Sim, sim.